Like,
More in terms of when you first landed, the first few months, like how did you adjust yourself? Because a lot of people struggle in terms of figuring out, okay, what should, in terms of staying for a longer period of time in the, even in the West in general. So how were the first 6 months? How did you manage that?
I would say it was a lot going on during
Yeah,
that
that's
time. So first things first, I would say that this goes especially for the boys and especially for the Pakistani boys. Start doing your home chores because, over here, no one is to do the cleaning the dishes, to clean the houses, to cleaning your own stuff, and then cooking. So I think all of these things, we start off with very basic stuff. I think these are very basic things that everyone should know. You should work in your own house. And I think that's something being born and raised in Pakistan, I was oblivious of. So I was not aware of most of the things. I did a bit of, it'd be funny to know that when I was coming here, I used to just stand with my mom and she was cooking. This is not something that you can just watch and learn. You have to get your hands dirty and that's how you learn. So that I did not do back home. All of that I did here and that was disastrous in the start. And so that's first thing that, start doing your housework, be it as little as, changing your own bed sheets to cleaning your own stuff, to cleaning your own bathroom, to going to the high end stuff, helping and everyone in the house. That's something which everyone should do. So if coming down to the first 6 months, I think the first hurdle that I faced was searching accommodation in Toronto is very, I would say, very tricky, very critical, and very difficult, especially for someone who is coming for the first time. So I wasn't aware. I got 1 month's housing in a hostel type building, which was close to my university. I got it for a month, but it was very small. It's by the name of Tartu Student College Residence. It's situated on Bloor Street West. My senior in Rotman used to live over there. He helped me a lot in getting the accommodation done. So that was the first thing sorted for just a month. Then I had my other batchmate who was also flying in from Pakistan with whom I had to, stay. And then we together searched for our first house, in Toronto. It took us about, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks to search a house, and we were nearly on the borderline. A few things that we faced as hurdles were the fact that since we were international students, we just had our banking and stuff done. We had no guarantors and stuff. Everyone tries to exploit, sorry to say over here, that they ask for higher rents. Not higher, I would say upfront rents, like
yeah.
4 or 5, maybe 6 months. So there were people in my batch which even paid 6 months upfront of rent. So I think that's something that's very everyone should be prepared for. And you should be looking at like Kijiji or stuff like that, like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji or rentals. These are the areas to really look forward to. My advice in this is that from my learning, I was fortunate to get a housing accommodation in my first year close to the university. So try living close to your university, at least in the first 6 months or the first year specifically because the place. So I would say that try to live closer because you are not aware of the transportation routes. You are
Exactly.
still learning. You don't know how the winter is going to treat you. So my advice would be from this learning to stay closer. But once you are through that first year or through those 3 months or 4 months or 6 months, you can change it because I also changed it after a year. So I don't live now anymore close to the university in my second year. So that was one thing of learning. The second thing was adjusting to the new life. So as I mentioned that I was a disaster at cooking. So I knew nothing apart from just like making an egg or just making tea. That was the only thing that I knew. So my breakfast was sorted for a bit, but what to do for lunch and what to do for dinner. So I was not sure. Thanks to my roommate who moved in with me, to my batchmate who moved in with me. He had a bit of sense because he had lived in the Middle East for his jobs and stuff. So he had been away from home for a bit. So he knew some part of the cooking, which really helped me also learn. The one thing that Rotman did during those first 6 months was the fact that it had a very rigorous study program. So
Yeah.
there were like 4 courses, which we had to complete in just 1.5 months time. So everything was very rigorous. That was the second biggest change that I had to face. Their terms, which are 1.5 months. It was very clustered. So we did not get a time to cook or do our stuff. So it's very competitive over here. When you have to get jobs, there are not disclosures signed by the university. So your GPA goes straight to the employer. And when you're talking about careers such as consulting or such as investment banking, which is generally what every MBA child has in mind when
Yeah.
he or she's coming to school. So everyone was in that rat race. I would say that everyone was studying. You have to study. If you don't study, you will fall back. So it was really competitive during those first 6 months. So I did not get a chance to properly learn, properly do something for me. And at the same time, we're tight on budget because we are
Yeah.
coming from Pakistan, so we don't have to
Yeah.
spend that much in dollars. So that's the currency differential as well. So how I sorted this thing was that I got myself a vegetarian tiffin service for a month. It was as cheap as I would say it was just costing me $5 a meal, but
Okay.
it was only vegetarian. And it sorted my worries from Monday to Friday. For Saturday and Sunday, we used to do something to live on. And this was the story for the first 6 months up until December, I would say. In December, what happened was that there was this break. Then I got a chance to get time out of school. He
Yeah.
said that this is now something we cannot sustain on. So we have to start cooking. So that's when we properly started cooking, me and my friend. And then we divided turns. And that's how we survived 6 or 7 months till we lived in that house till the end of the lease. So I would say that it was not easy. I think I covered housing, I covered the other stuff, I covered the study part. I would say the next important thing that I had to sort was winter clothing. I think that's very important as well because uh, another bit of advice was, and this is something that I got earlier on as well, that Pakistani clothes won't survive the winter over here. So if you no matter get how many layerings, you get thermals, you get jackets, you get sweaters, whatever you do, you need to buy one good winter jacket. And that's very important. So that's an investment that you have to make. So now I'm not saying that go buy a Canada Goose because that's like very expensive, I would say. So you can look for discount stores such as Winners or Marshalls. So they have, or Marks. I think these are some of the premium outlets, or you can go to the outlet stores back home back in Vaughan or, the other areas. So these are places to really explore and look for your winter attire. I
Yeah.
would say that do this as soon as possible when you land. Don't wait till November or December to get that sorted because the winter comes on really early and, get your and footwear. So I would say one good winter jacket and then one good footwear. The footwear really helps you a lot. So I would say that don't compromise on these two things.